This video is on lesson 3 in your textbook on page 335. We are doing the second method of factoring. I just want to make a note that we skip lesson 2 for now and we will come back to it. At the top of your page, I just want you to jot down factoring. We'll talk about the type of factoring we did in lesson 1 and then what it's going to be called in lesson 2. So in lesson 1, we did factoring by what was called GCF, and I'll do one example of that to remind you. In lesson 2, the method of factoring is called inspection. So that's sort of the formal term for this type of factoring. I'm often going to refer to it as PSA number 1, and that's the informal form. So if ever you're discussing the method of factoring you use, you would use the words inspection. All right, let's do a quick review of GCF. So you can pause the video for a second, write down this expression, see if you could first find the GCF, and then see if you could factor this. And then unpause when you think you have the answer. Okay, so the GCF of this expression would be 5a squared b3. And remember what we did with the GCF is we took each term in our expression and we created a division bar. And I'm going to divide each term by that GCF. Whatever the GCF is, it goes in front of a bracket, and the answer goes in the bracket. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. A squared over A squared will cancel. You would apply your quotient law here, and you would subtract the exponents. B to the 4 minus B to the 3 would simply be B to the 1. We don't need that invisible 1. Plus 5 divided by 5 becomes 1. The B cubes would cancel. Quotient law for a to the 3 over a to the 2 would become a to the 1. And then what I'm going to do is you don't need your invisible ones. So I'm just going to erase this, and you could even erase this if you wanted to. I'm going to box this in. So this question actually has two factors. 5a squared b to the 3 was one of your factors, and what's in the bracket, 2b plus 1a, that would be your second factor. Okay, let's look at what this inspection or this PSA 1 will be. What I want you to do is I want you to go over here where you see this expression, and it's a trinomial. So what's really important with this type of factoring is with PSA 1, PSA 2, or these inspection questions, they're always going to be trinomials. The other thing that you need to recognize is the coefficient or the leading coefficient, the invisible number in front of that x squared, is a 1. So that's why I called this question PSA 1. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to set up a little chart, and PSA. P stands for product, and I'm going to find the product. It's always going to be the constant. That's what you're going to be looking at, a product of this number. S stands for sum, and the sum is always going to be the middle term or the term in front of the x, the number in front of the x, which is a 6. So what you're going to do is you always take this product, which is 8, and you are going to write all the numbers that multiply to give you 8. So for example, 1 and 8. Divide 8 by 2 and you get 4. Those are the numbers that multiply and give you a product of 8. What we need to find is which of these numbers would sum to 6. So 1 plus 8 would give us 9, and 2 plus 4 would give us 6. I am looking for the two numbers that multiply to 8 and sum to 6. Those two numbers are 2 and 4. And that would be your answer. How do you write this, though, in factored form? You're going to create two brackets. You're going to put an x at the beginning of each bracket. 1x is going to get a plus 2, and 1x is going to get a plus 4. It does not matter which is which. Okay? What you could do for all of these questions is you could check if you were correct. So let's say this was a quiz question and it said to factor this trinomial. These were your two factored answers you got, and you had time at the end of your quiz and you wanted to check if you got the right answer. How you would do that is essentially what we did in the last chapter. So in the last chapter we did expanding, and that's exactly what I would do. I would circle that first term of the first bracket and distribute it into the second bracket. 1x times 1x is 1x squared. 1x times 4 is plus 4x. Then I would circle the second term of that first bracket and distribute it in. 2 times 1x is plus 2x, and 2 times 4 is plus 8. If you were to gather your like terms together, 4x and 2x is 6x. Bring down that plus 8 and bring down that 1x squared. And if you look, that expression here is the expanded form of the factors that we had, and it's the expression that we started with. So if you really wanted to on a test and it was a factoring test, you could just re-expand, and if you get your original expression, you've done it correctly. I know you don't have much room, but we're on that first page still. Just off to the side or towards the bottom, I'm going to give you another one that we're going to factor. So I want you to write down x squared plus 5x plus 4. Okay? So again, this is a trinomial. The invisible number in front of the x is a 1. This is going to be a PSA 1 question or inspection. You're going to set up your chart, product, sum, answer. And when it's a PSA 1 question, it's nice and easy. The product we're going to use is going to be the constant. The sum, I'm going to find a sum of 5. You always take, again, the product, so 4. And you say to yourself, what are all of the numbers that multiply to 4? 1 and 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2. Those are the numbers. 1 times 4 would give you a product of 4. 2 times 2 would give you a product of 4. If you added these numbers now, which one would sum to 5? And by inspection, you should be able to see that it's a 1 and a 4. So I'm going to write that down. That's my answer. Because check your answer. 1 times 4 gives you 4. 1 plus 4 gives you 5. So your factored answer would simply be put an x at the front of each bracket. 1x is going to get a plus 1, and 1x is going to get a plus 4. And then you box that in, and you have factored that question. Okay, flip your page. We will do a couple more to see that you are understanding this. So on this page, I'll do that one second. Let's do sort of one up here. I want you to write down x squared plus 8x plus 12. So just find some white space. X squared plus 8x plus 12. Again, say to yourself, this is a trinomial. The leading coefficient is a 1. I'm going to factor this by inspection, or by PSA 1, I'm going to call it. I am looking for what gives me a product of 12 and a sum of 8. You take the 12, you always take that, the product, you always take that constant, and you say, what were all the numbers that multiply to 12? So it would be 1 and 12. It would be 12 divided by 2 is 6. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Those are all of the numbers that when multiplied would give you a product of 12. We have to find the one, though, that gives you a sum of 8. So if I was to add this, I would get 13, I would get 8, and here I'd get 7. Therefore, the two numbers that multiply to 12 add to 8 would be 2 and 6. Create your two brackets. Put an x at the beginning of each bracket. 1x will get a plus 2. It does not matter which one, and 1 will get a plus 6. This answer has two factors. One of the factors is x plus 6. One of the factors is x plus 2. All right, let's do another one. And I'm going to make it slightly more complicated, not very much though. I'm just going to now give you a question where this number is going to be negative. So let's do up here. Okay. If I was to add these algebra tiles, right, this is a 1x squared, but what it would be 1x squared minus 7x's, and then it would be plus 12. So you say to yourself, trinomial, leading coefficient is 1. This is going to be the PSA 1 or the inspection question. Set up your chart. We're going to look for what gives us, always, what two numbers multiply to 12, add to negative 7. So I'm going to show you what happens, because something sort of interesting happens here. Take your 12, and I always start with 1, right? So 1 and 12. Leave yourself some space. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Leave yourself some space. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Those are all of the numbers that when multiplied would give you a product of 12. When we add these, you would say, okay, that gives you a 13, that gives you an 8, this gives you a 7. How do we get a negative 7? What you need to realize is that um, I could write negative 1 and negative 12. Negative 1 times negative 12 would still give me 12 because two negatives make a positive. And I could give you negative 2 and negative 6 because negative 2 times negative 6 gives you a positive 12. So two negatives make a positive. Same with this, negative 3, negative 4. Now, when you sum them, hopefully you could see by inspection what it would be. That would give you a 13. This would give you a negative 13. This would give you an 8. This one a negative 8. This would be a 7, and there is our negative 7. So my answer would be negative 3 and negative 4. And again, always double check. Negative 3 times negative 4 gives you 12. Negative 3 plus negative 4 sums to negative 7. Set up your two brackets and put an x at the beginning of each bracket. 1x gets a minus 3 and 1x gets a minus 4. I'm going to do one more question very similar to this where my middle term here is going to be negative. So if you have more room down here, let's see. Just want to make sure I haven't done it already. Nope. Okay, let's write this one down. Here's your expression. Here's your trinomial. X squared minus 7x plus 10. Again, trinomial, 3 terms. It's in descending order of x. My leading coefficient is 1. PSA 1 question. If you like your charts and you're setting up your charts, we are looking for what two numbers give us a product of 10 and a sum of negative 7. You always take that top number, which is the 10, and say what multiplies to 10. 1 and 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. By inspection, I could just look at this and say that's going to sum to 11. This is 7. I need a negative 7. So say, okay, that's right. Negative 1 and negative 10 will also multiply to give you positive 10. Negative 2 and negative 5 will multiply to give you positive 10 because two negatives make a positive. But when I add these two, that will give me my sum of negative 7. So the answer in this case is negative 2 and negative 5. And then double check. Negative 2 times negative 5, 10. Negative 2 plus negative 5 would give you negative 7. So your factored answer would be x minus 2 and x minus 5. Flip now. So we've done quite a few, and it's almost time probably where you would be ready to practice. Okay, let's do one, let's do two more together just to make sure that you're good, and then I'll give you some to practice. All right, what I want to do is we're going to do F and we're going to do D, and then I'll give you practice. You'll pause the video while you're practicing, and then you'll unpause so I could do number 6. Let's start with F. 1x squared plus 27x plus 50. This is a inspection or PSA 1 question. You're looking for what gives you the product of 50, the sum of 27. What's the answer? So take the 50. 50 divided by 1 is 50. 50 divided by 2 is 25. I'm going to stop because upon inspection, I just say to myself, 2 and 25, add them together and you get 27. So I know that my answer is 2 and 25. Set up your brackets. Put an x at the beginning of each bracket. 1x gets a plus 25. I'll start with that one. It doesn't matter. 1x gets a plus 2. And you're done. This question has two factors. X plus 25 is considered a factor. X plus 2 is another factor. Let's look at D. So if you need to pause, um, set up your chart, see if you could find the answer, and then unpause. Here are all the numbers that would multiply to give you 10. And upon inspection, I could see that it's going to be this one. If you typed in on your calculator -1 plus -10, you would get -11. That means that my answer is -1 and -10. Now, when you set up your brackets, same as before, the only thing that's different is I can't put an X at the beginning of my bracket. I have to put an A. So one of my answers is going to be A minus 1, and the other one's going to be A minus 10. Okay, I think we've done enough together where I want you to see if you could do some of these homework questions. And then when you're done the homework questions, you want to come back and watch lesson 6. So I'm going to give you the homework questions first. You could pause and then you come back and watch that. I want you to do all of number 6. Number 7, I'm not going to assign all of it. I'm just going to assign a few because what I like about number 7 is it has bigger numbers that you're breaking down. So let's do C, D, E, H, I, P, N, and O. If you could do those, you're getting the correct answer. You are doing really well. All right, now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do that last class example. So the last class example is class example number 6, and we're going to be factoring. Here's what I need you to realize though. If you look at this, you say, okay, this is a trinomial, right? I could do PSA on trinomials because that's correct. All of the questions though that we've done had a 1 in front of, that was your leading coefficient. This has a 4. You can't factor by inspection or by PSA 1 unless you have a 1. So what has to happen is we are going to be first factoring by GCF. The GCF is going to be the number in front of the x squared, which is 4. Watch what happens if we factor by GCF. So take your 3 terms, divide each term by 4. Remember your GCF goes in front of your bracket and your answer goes in the bracket. So figure out what the answer would be. 4 divided by 4, there's your 1. X squared. Bring down that minus. 32 divided by 4 is 8. Bring down that x. Okay, then plus 48 divided by 4 is 12. So we have just factored by GCF. However, we're not done. We could now look at this trinomial and say, let's factor this trinomial. And what our answer would look like would be the following. We need to bring down that 4. Students will always sort of forget the GCF. We're going to set up our two brackets. And now what we're finding, what are the two numbers that multiply to 12, sum to -8? So I'm just going to write it off to the side. 1 and 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then I'm going to say, okay, I know that 2 plus 6 is 8. -2 and -6 will give me, -2 times -6 gives me +12. But if I sum them, I get the -8. So my answer is going to be x minus 2 and x minus 6. I'm going to box that in, and I have completely factored that question. One thing I want you to realize is we actually have 3 factors. X minus 6 is a factor, x minus 2 is a factor, and 4 is a factor. If you were checking this to re-expand, remember you would take that 4 and you distribute it into the first bracket to get 4x minus 8, and then you could do your distributive property and you'd get right back here. Let's look at this guy. So students will look at that. I'll say, what's the GCF? They'll say we need to get rid of the 3, and they are right. However, inspection or PSA 1 questions, it is always x squared x and then a constant. There's an x cubed here. So there's actually going to be a variable that's a GCF. X cubed, x squared, x to the 1. The GCF would be x to the 1, or 3x. Divide each of these by 3x. Put your GCF in front of the bracket and the answer in the bracket. 3 divided by 3 gives you 1. X to the 3 divided by x to the 1 is x squared, plus 21 divided by 3 will give you 7. X squared divided by x1 gives you x, plus the x's will cancel here, and 30 divided by 3 is 10. Okay, let's set it up. Bring down your GCF, set up your two brackets. I know I'm going to have an x at the beginning of each bracket. I need to find what were the two numbers that multiply to 10 and sum to 7. 1 and 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Really quickly, I'm able to see my answer. My answer is a 2 and a 5. So x plus 2, x plus 5, and you are done. I'm going to assign one more question in the homework that has this factoring by GCF and then by inspection. On a quiz, I would give you one question like this, and then one question that's more difficult. This would be worth 2 marks. This would be worth 3 marks. So let's see what the question is in your homework that has a GCF first. And it is number 10. So I want you to do all of number 10. Make yourself a note that this is factoring first by GCF. What I'll do is I'll quickly find the GCF with you for each of these. What I would do is pause this, see if you could find the GCF, and then unpause it to see if you're correct. So for A, the GCF is simply 2. 2 goes in front of your bracket, your answer goes in the bracket, but then remember, that answer has to further be factored. Okay, B, GCF is 4. Divide each term by 4. C, the GCF is -2, would be my GCF. The reason is, I want to show you for this one, -2 is your GCF, that goes in front of your bracket. -2 divided by -2 is 1a squared. We only want to factor if I have a +1. Okay, we don't want to factor if we have a negative here. So you would GCF it out. And then here, 2 negatives make a positive. 30 divided by 2 is 15a. 2 negatives make a positive. 108 divided by 2 is 54. -2. Now find the two numbers that multiply to 54 and that sum to 15. D, your GCF is 5. E, your GCF is A. Get rid of the A. A will cancel, you'll get 14x, plus A will cancel, you'll get 45. Then again, figure out the two numbers that multiply to 45 and add to -14. This last one, the GCF, it is -10. And we've got common variables, a to the 4, a to the 3, a to the 2. You always take out the variable with the lowest power that's common, which would be a squared. So -10a squared, -10a squared, -10a squared, -10a squared. -10 divided by -10 is 1a squared minus 10a plus 24. And then factor out by inspection that. And that is it for this lesson.